These are all Gaiwans, the most useful type of teapot that you can use for loose leaf brewing. They won't get the leaves stuck in them like a tea ball, they're not hard to clean like a teapot, and with a few tips and tricks, you can get using one of these as well. So if any of you have ever brewed loose leaf tea before, one of the main things you'll see in the US are those little stainless steel tea balls, which are okay. But the problem is, there's really two main ones that you see. One with the ball that has the chain on the end that drops in, and the other that are kind of like clamps that open in half. Now, when you're putting the tea in, a lot of times you'll accidentally break the leaves when you're using tea balls, which can affect the quality of the tea. But additionally, then when you're cleaning them, it is such a pain to clean them out. If you've ever used one of these tea balls, you know that you can't just dump out the leaves. You have to sit there with your hose in your sink. The utility in this is that never happens. All you have to do is flip this over. Gaiwans are also significantly easier to clean than a teapot. Artistic teapots typically have a smaller lid, which means when you're trying to get the leaves out of the inside, it can be really a pain. In addition to that, the shape and body of teapots changes. And that's largely due to the intention of the potter, how they want it to pour, what the expectation is. Do they want you to be able to control how fast it pours or not? What is the falling point, the natural falling point? These factors all affect how you pour. If it's top-seated and you pour too fast like this pot, it might leak. So for someone just getting into Gongfu tea for the first time, really a teapot is more of a surgical knife. Gaiwans, on the other hand, can pretty much all be used the same. And it's not that potters are intentionally being deceptive, but they may have a specific function in mind, and if you're new to tea and teaware, you may not know the way that that pot is meant to be used. The last thing for a teapot, there's a much bigger variance in terms of quality and how that's going to perform. If you get a bad teapot for your first pot, you're probably not going to brew tea anymore this way. Whereas with a Gaiwan, because it's a more simple shape, really even a bad one can be adjusted and you can use if you like it. So there's a lower risk of buying something that you're not going to like the way that it functions because all Gaiwans are much more similar. Here are some recommendations from your favorite pot dealer. So the first thing is the type of Gaiwan to choose from. There's really three main categories that I would group these in. The first is pots that feel good in your hand, that are comfortable, and they feel nice. If you're a very tactile person, there's these pots. The biggest players for this, I would say, are Dehua and Ruyao. Second are aesthetic Gaiwans. The nice thing about Gaiwans is they're going to oftentimes be glazed, and so you can get the coolest glazes that you can possibly imagine on a pot. If you want to experience what it's like to have unglazed teaware, but aren't ready for the cost of a teapot, these are a great option. But choosing your Gaiwan isn't the only factor. One thing that people are afraid of is they're really unfamiliar with what a Gaiwan is. So a Gaiwan is made of 2 or 3 parts, a gaizi, a wan, and a tuo. So the gaizi is lid, the wan is bowl, and then the tuo is saucer. Originally, you would make your tea right in here and drink from the Gaiwan. Ever since the popularization of Chaozhou Gongfu cha and as it's progressed around the country, the Gaiwan has transitioned so that you can use it in 2 ways. You can use it, yes, still drinking from the Gaiwan, or you can use it as a conventional pot, pouring into a pour cup or a cup directly. But with this comes some limiting factors. So the first thing is you want to make sure that you don't fill the Gaiwan too high. So you want to fill it just until the Gaiwan starts to flare out. See, that flaring point gives you some room for the heat to dissipate. The other thing that's really going to help you is making sure that you're gripping it in a way that doesn't burn you. First is the 3-指法, the 3-finger method. So you're going to take your middle finger and your thumb and bring it around the rim of the Gaiwan. You're going to use your second finger over the top and pour like so. The second method is the 手抓法, or the hand grasp method. This one doesn't work as well on taller Gaiwans, but if you have big enough hands like me, you can use it on pretty much anyone. For this, you're going to take your thumb and place it on the lid, and either 2 or 3 fingers and place it underneath. Typically, this is also called hamburger style or Spider-Man. The third thing to make sure that you get the best experience out of your Gaiwan is considering the tea that you're using. Now, you could go into, say, every single type of tea, but really we're talking about one tea type in specific, and that's going to be rolled or balled teas. Because they will expand, if they expand too much in the Gaiwan, you'll end up burning yourself because there won't be any room for the water. In a teapot, you may lose the flavor of the tea, but you're not going to burn yourself like with the Gaiwan. If you're new to drinking Gongfu tea, I hope that you got a little bit more comfortable with using using a Gaiwan, and if you're experienced, maybe you found a new different style that you liked here today. But if you're ready to move on from a Gaiwan to a teapot, make sure you check out this video here for our tips on using a teapot.